All right. Welcome to How People Learn a Language and Why It Matters. My name is Christina Parente, Director at the Wisconsin Technical College System. So this session is being recorded. There will be time at the end for Q&A, so please share your questions in the chat as they come up. I put this into the chat, but if you want to turn on captions during the session, please click the three dots at the top of the meeting. Click on Language and Speech and turn on live captions. It is also, as I said before, those directions are in the chat. Resources and recordings will be available at the WTCS Faculty Summit site, and our goal is to have them ready within the week. You'll receive an email when resources are available. As we get started, let me just tell you that we're very excited to host the third WTCS Faculty Summit. We recognize that many of you are taking time out of your busy work schedule, and we want to make the most of our time during the session. So please make sure that you're muted unless your facilitators ask you to come off mute and participate. Please share your questions in the chat and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. At the end of the session, I'll be putting a link to a session feedback form, and we'd love for you to share one action step that you'll take as a result of the information that is shared. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our presenters.
All right. Hello. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful morning where we are too, Christina. Okay. Well, welcome to How People Learn a Language and Why It Matters. We're going to be, I'm actually going to skip ahead because I want you all to put this in the chat first, okay? So we can introduce ourselves while you're typing your information. We want to know your name, what's your college and position, why did you choose to attend this session? And what color are your socks today? Because that's what we like to ask our ELL students, lots of silly questions to get them going. So please, in the chat, we'd love to see what you got going on, where you're all coming from. Some of you might be ELL instructors, some of you might not. And we love doing this teaching, this training to all types of faculty so that they kind of understand where language learners are coming from. And if you've been trying to do Duolingo forever and you're like, why am I just not able to communicate on my trip to Spain? Well, we will share why and how that gets difficult. So pop your stuff into the chat. We'd love to know more about you, your name, your program or your position, why you're interested in this session, and your socks, please. All right. Lindsay and I will share a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Alyssa. I am an ELL instructor here at CBTC in Eau Claire at our Eau Claire campus. I'm also our program director. And so I have the pleasure of connecting with all our faculty and our adjuncts. And yeah, I have a master's in TESOL from the University of North Texas. I have 15 to 20 years of teaching experience, lived in a few different countries. I speak English and Spanish. So I've understand the difficulty of learning language. It's taken a long time for me to get to where I am, and I'm not quite there yet. I love light bulb moments. I love to see my students really get it and have those moments for them and creating a safe space. I would say my teaching strengths, I really try to focus on speaking. I love when students are able to start speaking English, express their ideas, and learn to have conversations. I love to sing and use my singing and music within my lessons. So how about you, Lindsay?
My name is Lindsay Humunga. I am also an ELL instructor at CBTC, and I teach adult basic ed as well. I've been teaching in some capacity for 15 to 20 years. I've lived in a few countries as well. I speak English and Spanish and enough Chinese to get into trouble, but not necessarily out of it. My reasons for teaching are that happy sound of student understanding you get in an ELL classroom when everyone goes, oh, that feeds my soul, and money for puppy kibbles. My teaching strength is pronunciation. I love looking at the sounds of language, how they fit together, how the sounds someone has learned affect the sounds they're able to produce now, and working on exercising those muscles so people can produce more sounds and improve their pronunciation how they want to. And I also bring to the table an utter lack of embarrassment. I will explain or act out anything if it helps my students better understand what they need to.
All right, well, there's a little bit about us. Today, everything that we're going to be talking about is from our own experience, but also from this book. If you're interested in more information, this is a very short paperback book, and there's a lot of great information about the basics of learning English, learning a second language acquisition. So we're kind of going to do a little boot camp today. I see in the chat there's a lot of different faculty here. I'm so happy to see that because this is a training we like to give our faculty here as well, that are program faculty that have ELs in their classes, to help them understand how they might be able to improve their Canvas courses and improve their instruction, and just understand and have more empathy for what our students are going through who are learning a second language. All right, so let's talk a little bit about understanding second language acquisition. This is just a fancy word on how people acquire language. How do we acquire language? And we study first language acquisition. How do we as babies learn languages? And then second language acquisition. How is that similar? How is that different? And so let's talk a little bit about this idea of acquisition versus learning. This is a very important topic, actually. And a lot of times we just think, oh, they're the same. They're not the same. Learning and acquisition are very different. So acquisition occurs when we use a language for real communication, when we're actually using the language. And then learning occurs when we hear or read or study about a language. So you kind of think when you're cooking, if you're just reading a recipe, you're learning about that food and how to cook that recipe. But the acquisition happens when you're cooking that meal and when you're sharing that meal with someone. How did it actually go? Was there too much salt? Was there not enough pepper and spice? So that's really the difference between acquisition and learning. Learning and 75% of language learning time should be spent on acquisition. We should be using language with our students. And I think whatever programs we're a part of, we value that as instructors. We don't want it to just be straight lecture, right? Where it's just intaking all this information. We want our students to be using what they're learning and using how to take and draw blood and how to use that Excel spreadsheet. So 25% of language learning time should be spent on learning, just reading about things, understanding things. But we acquire language as we use it. And so when we increase in accuracy as we apply our learning to our language use. So again, just reading vocabulary in our bed and reading a book in another language, that's all really great learning. But if we're wanting to communicate and we're wanting to speak and have conversations and order food at a restaurant, those types of things are practiced in our use of a language. Let's see. Okay, Lindsay.
All right, so when we're looking at learning or acquiring a language, we look at input and output. Input is what a student takes in. This is when you are listening to a conversation, when you're overhearing something, listening to the radio, listening to music, or just hearing the people talking around you in a cafe. Or reading, I'm reading the rules, I am reading a book, I'm reading a street sign, I'm reading the mural on the side of my college wall. This would be your input. It's what the student takes in. Output, of course, is the opposite, speaking and writing. Those other two skills we hear about in language learning. What the students can put out. Can they write a paragraph? Can they fill out a form? Can they speak their opinion? Can they answer a question in class? That is the output. And a lot of things like Duolingo focus on input, lots and lots of input, listen and learn and read the grammar rules. But if you don't have that output, you're not actually acquiring. You're just learning about the language. So we talk about comprehensible input, which is for a learner to actually learn. They need input, but they need input they can learn, and that is comprehensible to them. So it has to be at the right level. And we have this graphic here that is like I+1. Input that will help you learn is one little step above what you already have. So it's something you can reach for and you have the opportunity to get, but it's not way high above. If you're talking to an English learner and you're reading them Shakespeare, they're not getting it. But if you're giving them a young adult novel when they're at an intermediate level, they're getting some of it. And that some of it they're getting is the comprehensible input.
I would also say that one thing that we try to do as ELL instructors, if we're able to prep a student and help them get through a certain amount of English levels before they start program, then when they go to your program, they'll actually be able to, that input will be comprehensible. When we have
ELL
a student,
instructors, we come up from the bottom. We kind of push them up to a level that you can work with.
that's what we want to do. Some students are like, I'm ready. And we're like, I don't think you're ready yet. It's going to be incomprehensible input. So as you're noticing that, where are some of your students in your classes? Is their input comprehensible? Is it over their heads? It's really going to depend on how a student succeeds in that course.
And so how can a language teacher make input comprehensible? We do lots of visuals, gestures, realia, real stuff. Bring in fruits and vegetables, bring in medical supplies. We use facial expressions. You'll notice Alyssa and I are both very animated. We act a lot and providing context, not just here's the vocabulary, but here's a situation. We tell stories with our bodies and with our words to help students understand what the vocabulary is and then how they can begin to use it on their own. If input isn't comprehensible, language will not be acquired. It just doesn't happen. If the same way that if someone is speaking to you very fast about something you do not have familiarity with, it's going to go right over your head. That is exactly what this is for our students if the language input is not comprehensible. And output, of course, why is output necessary? Why do I need to say my Chinese I've been practicing on my Duolingo? Well, that's how you know if you're learning, because if you learn a lot of things in your head, but you can't get them out of your mouth, as I tell my students, it's not going to help you very much. And so we need that input that is comprehensible for students to actually learn, and we need that output for us and them to see that they are learning and to gauge what we need to work on a bit more or where we might need to help them get additional resources, which is what you might have in your class. If a student is not giving output or is giving output that isn't up to the level, they might need some additional resources and support.
And one of the biggest things you can do as a program instructor is using visuals in your Canvas class and on your presentations. Visuals help so much make connection through vocabulary or a piece of information. Just straight up words and just hearing information is very difficult for an English learner. So, and I would say that goes for almost any learner, not even an English learner. Pictures are very helpful to make those connections. And, you know, we've had students who have gone to program when they're not ready and they pass the class, but they can't take the licensure. They don't pass that licensure portion if they need that. And that's where we're seeing like, okay, you've learned how to learn about this information in the class, but are you able to do it when someone asks you to? And that's where that acquisition piece is really important for English learning, but anything else.
And if you don't have a picture handy, if you realize that you're going off on a tangent that students need to know, take a deep breath and act it out if it's something that you can act out, because that really helps students and it helps them connect with you. All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Lindsay.
Alyssa.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, this is just kind of that cycle, right? When meaningful and authentic language come in, we get comprehensible input, we get interaction, we get more feedback, then we get leveled output, right? They're doing the things you're asking you to do. They're accomplishing, they're understanding, they're acquiring. That increases increased proficiency, and that increases higher level of comprehensible output. So it's a continued cycle. And we have lots of students that are like, oh, yesterday was a classic example. I was teaching future tense, and then a student all of a sudden was like, well, what about on Thursday and in the afternoon? Why in and on? And I said, not today. We're not doing that today. We're focusing on this today. Our students really want to like learn everything now. And we have to say that is not comprehensible input at this time. So we really have to pull our students back to say we need to learn little by little so that we can actually follow this cycle. And this kind of brings us to this cycle, also works with automaticity. So making something automatic. 25% of language study time should be spent using grammar and words that we already know. So a fourth of our time should be things that we already know, that we feel comfortable with, that we're really good at identifying in a language. And at least 80% of language must come to our minds automatically without much thought in order for us to be able to communicate well. That automaticity is so important, right? If someone is able to say, I do this a lot with my students. I lift up a pen and say, what is this? And they go, oh, pen, oh, pencil, phone, bottle. And then I say something like this. Well, what is this? Oh, a cup. But it's for coffee. What is that? Right? And they're reaching for that word. They can't find it. They're like, I know I've heard this word before. But as that input continues and that output continues, and those words become more familiar, then we're able to grab and reach those words and reach that grammar very quickly. It takes a lot of time, but fluency is needed in each stage for language learning. And that's what happens with those building blocks. We get automatic with the simple words first and the simple grammar first, and then we get more comprehensible input, and we're automatic with those things. So, we really have to practice with learn a little, use a lot, learn a little, use a lot, learn a little, use a lot. So that automaticness is very important. That's also why when maybe you're traveling and you haven't been practicing your speaking with someone, you might be able to read the word and understand it, but it might not come to mind when you're trying to order a meal. You maybe haven't acquired that word enough to just be able to grab it out of your mind. So it's amazing to see it on students' faces, like, oh, they're really reaching for this. They're not quite there with this concept. How can we get it to be more automatic? And that's through practice and repetition.
You'll also notice that with your students when they acquire things that you're not necessarily intending to teach them. And that could be, I play games with balls in my class a lot. And when I throw a ball to a student, I'm going to say at this point, 70% of the time they say, nice catch, which I never taught them, but I say it so often that it's become automatic. You catch the ball, you say, nice catch. And that is an example of how I'm not intending it, but they're acquiring that language anyway.
Yeah, for me, Lindsay, it's when I say, what else? What else? And I want more ideas from my students.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually say, what else? And then I say, what more? What more? Because I know they understand the word more, but they might not understand the word else. And so then later on in the class, students have asked me, like, teacher, what is what else? What is what else? And I was like, oh, it means give me more ideas. What other ideas do you have? And they're like, oh, so they know the phrase and they use it as well, but it's just that automaticity. Yeah. Another thing that's really big research happening in our field right now and incredibly important is this thing called translanguaging. That's a very fancy academic-y looking word. What it really is this idea of code switching and this idea of students utilizing their full linguistic knowledge when they're learning a concept. So we want students to actually use their first language or second language or third language and English. And this can include features of other languages to maximize what they're learning. So that might mean that they print out your PowerPoint for class and you encourage them to write down the vocabulary words in Vietnamese as well as English, right? Or you encourage them to process some of this thinking in their first language, because when we can combine all of our linguistic capabilities, that acquiring actually becomes stronger. And for many, many years in ELL and language schools, it was this no first language, English only, English only. That is really terrible research, actually. When we can combine a full language and all of our abilities, this brings the acquiring faster and more steady and more grounded. So the use of a student's home language should not be frowned upon. A student's home language should be valued and respected in the classroom and outside of the classroom, and give students to make these opportunities and connections with English and their home language. If you have a group of students in your nursing class that all speak French and there's some work time, put them in a group sometime so that they can reiterate, did you understand what the professor said? And that they can do that in French. because then they can talk to each other and say, yeah, that's what I got. This is what I got. Yes. Okay. We're in agreement. Or, oh, whoa, we don't understand. Let's go talk to the faculty member, so making, do not just say, no, don't use your language. Please don't do that. You need to learn English, of course, but their language is so valuable and will likely be useful in their jobs in the future as well. So let's use all of our linguistic potential when we're allowing students to learn.
So another thing that can really affect whether a student is learning anything, but languages in particular, is stress. And we all know this. When you're stressed, things don't always get in your head the way you want them to. So when we talk about language acquisition, there is something we call the affective filter. All right. The affective filter is what allows or prevents language from getting into your knowledge base. It prevents or permits language acquisition. It's a filter. So when the affective filter goes up like a wall in front of you, full of stress, language can't come in. There is research on this. I'm sure Alyssa knows where it is. She's the queen of finding the research. But if you are in a stressful situation, you're going to forget, or you're going to not be able to grasp what you're looking for. If a cop pulls you over and says, "Hi, do you have your license and registration?" If you're an English learner, you might go, "I know license, I know registration, but in this moment, I don't know what license and registration is." Or if you're sitting down to a test and you've studied this and you know it and you've translated it in your head and you're looking at it on the paper and there's a clock ticking in the corner and other students are already writing, that student might lose some of their confidence, and they might not be able to produce the output that you're looking for on that test. That's that affective filter. Other things that can affect it are culture shock, which English language learners have culture shock. Even if they come from a culture that seems very, very similar, there's always something, and that language is often the thing. And then trauma, students who are refugees, students who have had separations from family or have had something going on in their relationships in their life. There's going to be little traumas and big traumas, and those pull that affective filter up in front of their faces and make it extremely hard. It is completely subconscious. No one is going, "I am stressed, I won't learn." They're all going, "I am stressed, I need to learn more." And so something that you can do in your class, that we try to do in our class, is get your students comfortable, help them feel that they're where they need to be, and there we go. Doing things that can lower that language learning stress. Exposure to language at the right level, all right? If you have graphics or pictures or PowerPoints in your class, put the target language on it and don't clutter it up with other things the student will try to understand everything. And if there's things on there that they're not ready for yet, they might focus on that instead of what you want them to do. Opportunities to be successful. Do some easy practice every once in a while. What is a pen? They know what a pen is. Good morning. How are you? I'm good. What kind of good? Happy good. All right. The easy things give them a chance to build confidence and success. And then you work in the higher things and let them be successful at that. Another hard one for me, I'm not particularly great at this, is downtime. Students need breaks. In a 90-minute English class, they might get 1 or 2 5-minute breaks, maybe more. My students know I'm not great at it, so they just tell me that it's break time now. And that's a classroom rule we've agreed on, is they're allowed to tell me when they need a break, and we'll do it. Studying in a group, as Alyssa mentioned, language groups can be very helpful, and they do lower stress because they get the opportunity to use their first language, or just studying in a group where there's 1 or 2 people to interact with instead of the whole class and the teacher watching. Using language in meaningful ways in content classes, it's going to be meaningful pretty much all the time, but something that they're going to use, something they can apply, and that they have the context to understand the meaning. All right. Words out of context are less meaningful than when you're practicing something in a situation. Emphasis on communication. If your grammar is not perfect, but I know what you mean, cool. That's awesome. Unless we're working on that grammar point today. Enjoyable language use tasks. We've all taken paper tests. We've all filled out worksheets, and we all know that doing a sim, doing a practice, doing a role play is more fun and often more applicable. And then the last thing is just being empathetic, being encouraging, noticing when your students are struggling, asking them what else you can help them with, giving them various opportunities to learn and acquire, and listening when they need to talk is um, can be a little exhausting if you're doing that all the time. We all know this. We've all been there, but it really does help the students get that affective filter down so they are ready and they are willing and able to acquire the language you want them to, be it vocabulary or bedside manner.
Absolutely. The value of relationship, we're kind of expanding on that stress, lowering that affective filter, the value of relationship and community.
Right.
So social interaction is a
I'm
known
just going to make
benefit.
sorry to interrupt. If you could all make sure you're muted, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, so social interaction is a known benefit in language acquisition, as we see it in our programs too. When students get to spend time together, they enjoy their learning more and they grow more in their learning. So social interaction is huge. A good teacher structures pair and group work for either same level or different level interactions. So there are times where we want our lower level students to all be together for this one activity, but then maybe a mixed level for a different activity. Or maybe I want my language group students to be all in French, all in Hmong, all in Thai, all in Vietnamese. And then sometimes I want them to be mixed languages. So as instructors, like being really flexible about how do you pair? Are you pairing levels? Are you pairing differences and differentiation? But both can be very, very helpful. Language teachers, we also understand that building relationships with students helps to increase motivation, offers opportunities for using language, overall success with language acquisition and learning. And if you're a program instructor, you know, it's very culturally different in US education that students have access to their instructors. And a lot of your ELs, if they're from another country, even if they're not a language learner, maybe they are from Nigeria and their first language is English, they might still have some of those cultural differences where they're not sure if they can approach you, what an office hour is for, you know, what that time with them, how that is spent. That instructors actually truly want to get to know their students too. It's not all about this hierarchy all the time. And that's very common in many cultures, is this hierarchy and separation. And so, you know, getting to know your students, especially your EL students, will really increase their motivation and interest in your class and in the material.
And it is absolutely okay to be explicit about that. Office hours are on your schedule. That means that you can come and talk to me. And if my door is closed, you can knock on the door or peek in the window, and I'll tell you if I'm available. Being very, very explicit and specific can help them understand that, oh, yeah, no, the teacher said I could come in and do this even if the door's closed.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have just a note about accents. And so we've seen some things in the chat about you know, I have students who speak other languages. I have students who look like people who speak other languages, but I don't know if they do or not. And, you know, when do you assume? And so here's where we get into that. So a note on accents. Language learning is not all about the person who's speaking to you, the English learner. It's also about you and your ability to understand. And that is where some accent training yourself and practicing can really help your students feel more confident because it will help you understand them. So the listener, a good listener, has to listen, but you also have to do some practice and learn some techniques to help kind of open your ears so that you're more able to understand someone with accents. Any of us who have traveled to any other part of the world or the country and attempted to listen to two people speaking English to each other and understand can realize that, okay, that's English. I know that's English. They don't speak anything other than English, but I have no idea what they're saying.
Right.
You know, the first time in a cafe in Tennessee, okay, I don't know what just happened here, but it was English. There are different ways that you can work on that. So accents specifically are pronunciation variations within a dialect. Okay. The grammar is the same. Most of the vocabulary is the same. You can listen and understand each other. If we were texting, it'd be great. But we've got that pronunciation variations. Dialects are bigger variations. They have some grammatical differences. They might have some vocabulary differences. Accents are what you can work with. Accents exist in all languages, not just English. I have one. And when I'm teaching, I have less of one because English teachers tend to eliminate some of the little quirks to sound a little bit more standard, but we all have accents. And different countries have different Englishes. As Alyssa mentioned, students who are from Africa might have English as their first language, but it might be a different dialect. It might be a different accent. People from other parts of the world, South African English, English is a first language for many people from South Africa. It might be have learned in tandem with another one, but it is a first language. So we have all these different Englishes. So if we look at the graphic on the bottom of the screen here, we've got sort of the simplified version of how do you know about Englishes. There's 3 circles. We've got the inner circle, which is, you know, me. English is my first language. I'm from the USA, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. These are kind of like those first colonies, countries where English has been there and is the main. Then we get the outer circle, India, Pakistan, Singapore, Egypt, Nigeria, where people speak English as a first language, but it's heavily influenced by other languages or learned in tandem with them. And then we have the expanding circle where people learn English in school so that they can speak to English speakers. All right. Or so that they can speak to each other because they don't have a language in common. And so you get Chinese English and Japanese English and Korean English. These people are not necessarily learning English because they want to talk to me. They're learning English because they want to talk to anybody. And so their dialect doesn't have to match up more closely with mine. It has to be comprehensible with the people they're actually talking to. And so all of these are dialects of English, and none of them are better than the others. And so as a listener, we have to remind ourselves, okay, this is English. It's not better or worse than mine. I need to figure out how I can work with that. I can watch TV. I can watch movies. I can watch interviews. I can listen to different people with different things. I can use subtitles. I can practice. Whenever I have a new student in my class, if they speak a language I don't know, I go try to find a soap opera on YouTube in that language. And I listen to it because it gives me the sound, the music of that language. So I can start to see, oh, this language doesn't have consonants on the end, or this language has tones in it. I didn't know that. And that helps me to see what are their pronunciation challenges and what challenges for speaking are we going to have that I can try to help them with. And so here's a really good example of different accents and what they sound like. Alyssa, if you would go to the idea, I think it's shorter, just with our time where it is. So this is a really great website that Alyssa introduced to me because she knows all the awesome things. And you can listen to people who have accents speaking in English. It is just a compendium, a collection of people speaking. So for example, if you have a student from Vietnam, you may have difficulty understanding them. And you can practice listening to them. So very quickly, take a moment, and if you're not familiar with Vietnamese or Vietnamese pronunciation or Vietnamese English, this might be challenging for you. And so we're going to give it a listen, and then you can take a moment in the chat. You can give me a quick, how did that go for you? So let's have a listen here.
Recognized, yeah.
Veterinary nurse who had been working daily at an own zoo in a desert district of the territory were very happy to start a new job at a private in Knox Square near the duck.
It's very challenging, right? What I love about this website, though, is you can click on any country. You can get different accents from that country. You can learn a little bit about the person they recorded. What was their occupation? What was their age? How long they've been living in the US, or where are they living? When did they start learning English? Things like that. So it's a fantastic idea. I was telling a group of our police cadets and the police academy, if I were moving to a new city, I would want to know who are the immigrants in my city so that, and can I listen to some of these accents so that when I interact with those people, I can do a better job with the interaction. So that's a great website. Again, all this stuff will be shared with you all, but yeah, really, really cool. Very linguistic-y nerdiness of us here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, fantastic. We have come to this new portion of our presentation today that we really want to put you in the shoes of a language learner. So it's your turn to become a student. I'm actually going to stop. I just had some difficulty with it, some things, but what we'd like you to do is if you're able to unmute your video, please unmute your video. You do not have to unmute your video, but when you're learning language, it's very helpful when we see each other and we see our mouths and we see our faces. And we will ask you to unmute at a certain point as well. So we're going to teach a little Indonesian. It's going to be a very simplified lesson, but I want you to pay attention to how do I feel as I'm doing this? How am I comfortable, uncomfortable? What is making me more comfortable? What are we doing that we talked about in our presentation to support you? And we're going to do our best to not speak any English during this time, but we'll jump in little bits to speak some English. So thank you so much, Cap, for unmuting your video. Star student, we love it. Okay. So let me get back to our presentation here. I want to re-put this together. So a lesson in Indonesian. Copy us as well. You can talk and speak even if you're muted. We're going to be using our hands, people. Let's get uncomfortable.
All right. Okay, so we're going to teach you 4 words, and I need to stop speaking English. So first one, I can't point to it. Repeat after me. Nasi.
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 Ayam.
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 Teh.
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 Kopi.
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 Nasi.
Nasi.
Ayam.
Ayam.
Teh.
Teh.
Kopi.
Kopi.
Ayam.
Ayam.
Kopi.
Kopi.
Nasi.
Nasi.
Teh.
Teh.
Nasi.
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 Ayam.
Ayam.
Kopi.
Kopi.
Teh.
Teh.
Nasi.
Nasi.
Teh.
Kopi.
Ayam.
Ayam.
Nasi.
Nasi.
Ayam.
Good.
Kopi.
Teh.
Hey. Teh. Teh.
Teh. Ayam.
Ayam.
Kopi.
Nasi.
Teh.
Oh.
Alyssa, Anda suka nasi?
Anda suka nasi?
Anda suka nasi?
Anda suka nasi.
Anda suka nasi?
Ya, saya suka nasi.
Ya,
saya
suka
suka
nasi.
Ya, saya suka nasi.
saya suka nasi.
Tidak, saya tidak suka nasi.
Oh,
Tidak.
Saya
tidak
suka nasi.
Tidak,
Tidak.
saya tidak suka nasi.
Saya
Saya
tidak
tidak
suka
nasi.
nasi.
Alyssa, Anda suka ayam?
Yeah, saya suka ayam.
Christina, Anda suka kopi?
Yeah, saya suka kopi.
Good.
Lindsay, Anda suka teh?
Tidak, saya tidak suka teh.
Anda suka kopi?
Ya, saya suka kopi.
Okay. All right. Anda suka nasi?
Anda suka nasi?
Anda suka teh?
Anda
suka
suka
teh?
teh?
Anda suka kopi?
Anda suka kopi?
Anda suka ayam?
Anda suka ayam?
Tidak.
Tidak.
Tidak. Saya tidak suka.
Saya tidak suka.
Lindsay. Anda suka nasi?
Saya suka nasi.
Anda suka teh?
Saya suka teh.
Anda suka kopi?
Saya suka kopi.
Okay, good. All right. Anda suka kopi?
Saya suka kopi.
Saya suka kopi.
Okay.
Ya, saya suka kopi.
Anda suka ayam?
Ya,
Saya
saya suka
suka
ayam.
Good. Okay. One more thing.
Okay.
Teacher Lindsay, one moment. All right, so you've kind of seen a couple things we like to do. We have visuals, we have repetition, we again. We do some chanting sometimes in class, right, to get that rhythm. And Lindsay's going to share a slide deck or a survey for us. So she's going to put that on the screen. Get your phones out, okay?
I'm going to
Get your
try
cell
and
phone
put it
out.
on the screen.
Yeah,
I've
get
never
yourself-
done this before. So first I'm going to send you a link in the chat.
Okay.
And if you
And then I'm
share the
gonna
screen of it too, you'll be able
I'm
to.
going to try and
QR
share
code.
the screen. I've never done this in Teams before. Share.
You got it.
All
So we're
right.
going to ask you some questions on this survey. And then can you click present, Lindsay, at the top of that? Yes. And then click that QR code to make it bigger. Perfect.
There we
All
go.
right. So
Oh,
we
it
would
does
like
not
you
want to be
to.
bigger.
All right. Well, you have a couple options. You have the link in the chat. But
Mhm.
we have some questions for you. Saya suka teh, saya suka kopi, tidak, ya. So please share some of the answers if you understand. And you can work through that on your phone.
And I'll show you
Ooh.
what we got as we go. Ooh.
The screen.
Yeah, saya suka teh. Tidak nasi? Oh. Kopi? Oh,
Mhm.
kopi.
Ice cream.
Cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Ah, yes. Tidak.
Okay. Kopi. Nasi. Mhm.
I love phonetic
Mhm.
loan words.
Ayam.
Ayam.
Okay.
Just giving you a 2-minute or 3-minute warning. So sorry. I wish we could do this all day.
I know. Well, this is actually a pretty good ending point for this part of our presentation. We would love to have some questions, some thoughts. Even if you don't have a question, but you're like, I've been thinking about my students who are learning in my classroom. I will also say at this point too, Lindsay and I do this training with a lot of people in our campus, staff, students who are in classes and faculty. We also have another training called How to Use Google Translate Like a Pro. And we teach people how to use Google Translate, but not just to press the buttons, but how to have a positive interaction as you're Google translating, and also how, the cultural differences and how those matter too as you're Google translating with someone. And then some of the English do's and don'ts, what not to do, what not to write in a Google Translate scenario, that you can get a better result from that. So yeah, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Please put some questions in the chat if you're able to. I'd also love to know, you can share how you were feeling during that lesson, what you were considering about your own students during that lesson. If you want to just share some thoughts in the chat, we'd love to see what's going on, and we can do some questions.
And just to say too, as we're waiting for some questions in the chat, I also put a link to an exit ticket. So please fill that out later on. That will help inform future faculty summits.
All right, we had a question. This is more with American English. Although we want to be inclusive with language, what are your recommendations for getting students to use proper English when writing, specifically with essays or papers? This is the most challenging part of any, even for English learners, right? Even people who know English, it's hard to write. Lindsay, you wanted to say something though.
So this is something that I do with my students a lot. I often teach, this is a thing you can say, but we don't write it. And so it's the best thing is just explicitly explaining register. You know, when you're talking to me and you're telling me these things, these words are great. This speed is great. It's okay if you say ain't once or twice. It's not going to hurt anything, and we know what you mean. But when we write this way so people will understand us, and so people will respect the writing. And so explaining to your students the difference between the register spoken, informal, and then written, formal. Many of their first languages will have a formal and informal register that may actually be grammatically coded, whereas in English it's not grammatically coded. And so if you explained formal versus informal, instead of this is bad English, this is informal English and I need formal English. It's a quick way to start working on that and then build from there.
The other thing about writing that you're going to find if you're a program instructor is you will see students writing in their first language and translating it on Google Translate and then putting it in Canvas or their assignment, okay? This does look a lot like AI sometimes, so be cautious. Is this AI? Is this cheating? Or is this using language in a translanguaging functional way? But you could also have a policy. Something that we're trying to teach our intermediate and advanced students is this ethical portion of using AI and using Google Translate. We know that writing is difficult, and the writing is the last thing that you become fluent with over the span of tens and decades of learning, right? So some students are going to have to use AI resources and Google Translate resources, but what we want them to do is write it their way first. Write it in their first language. Maybe they do some Google Translate, but then look at it, or have them look at it with their academic support team. What words are silly? What words don't work? How can I adjust this? But starting out with their authentic voice first, using some of the resources they have to support their writing. But then if you have a policy as well, it's okay to have a policy as well. It's okay to say, I'm okay with you using Google Translate to work on the writing, but I would like you to go to a writing instructor once a week to work on this. I can see that you're going to need this in an important way. So do realize that your ELs are going to be doing that, but so are your native speakers, right? We have to teach our native speakers this too. Like, don't just use AI to get it done. Use your own authentic self first. See how you can enhance or change vocabulary to be more meaningful. So yeah, I think it's a very big, complicated thing though.
Yeah, my students are pretty good now at we write every day in class, and I tell them, no Google Translate, but they'll pull it out after. And my students, I'll be like, you have your phone. I'll say, no teacher checking it. And they'll be putting their English in to see what it produces in their native language. So it can be useful, but you got to work on building those boundaries.
A lot of it is just, sorry.
Go ahead, Tamara.
I found with students regardless of their native language, seem to trust AI too much. So I have to keep reminding them that it is not smarter than a fifth grader.
No.
And that if you're going for any kind of like expert knowledge, it's going to be wrong almost as often as it is right. You just cannot trust it.
I always tell my students AI produces what it thinks looks like a good answer.
Exactly.
One thing I also really want to encourage you all, especially program faculty out there, I would love for you to know who are the ELL instructors at your college. Get to know them because you can, I know we all have requirements where we're supposed to have meaningful assessments through interaction with different human relations, right? And different communication relations. So think about those ELL classes. All ELL teachers, we love having program instructors. We love to go to you. You could come to us. We just, we're going to be working with all the police cadets in the police academy at CVTC to have just a 1 hour and a half class where we're having an open dialogue about policing and cultural differences. I'm going to work with our nursing faculty where we can go to the nursing classroom and they can practice their vitals, and our students can practice giving their personal information. Lindsay just had an awesome thing, had the student safety officers come into her classroom to talk to her students all about the differences, again, with policing and security. So we really want to work with you all, and we want you to think about, is there a way? It doesn't have to be long. We know you have a lot of instruction to get through, but we really love collaboration and our students love it. So think of us ELL instructors, get to know us. We want to get to know you at whatever college you're at. So find those people and see if there's any meaningful acquisition you could do within your program. I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay and Alyssa, and thank you to everyone who joined. This was fun, and what a wonderful time, a wonderful way to start a Friday, and also just the learning. So appreciate it so much. Please feel free to answer that survey. And Alyssa and Lindsay, thank you once again. I hope you all
Thank you
have
so
a
much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone,
Have a
great
fantastic
Friday.
weekend.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.